Okay, so what I want to show you real quick before I put this stator on, I wasn't going to actually make a video on doing this, but because this is a KTM 525 engine on this ATV, you need to know that there are some differences in these stator gaskets. This is for a dirt bike, KTM 450, 525, I think 400, whatever else that KTM made. As you can see, there's no pinhole for the motor for the stator cover. And on this is the Polaris spec, and you could see the pinhole on top and bottom. So you've got to line those up for the Outlaw cover. Now I do know that when Polaris contracted KTM for the 450 and 525 motors, the 525 motors weren't being made anymore on KTM's line. They went to something else or a new design. So I think when KTM put back in production the 525 motor for Polaris, they inserted these pins. Now this is going to be a little tricky. This is where I got the leak from, was when I installed that stator cover, I got a small rip on this bottom pinhole is what I come up with when I went to reinstall the cover. When they build these engines, they more than likely, this stator cover is probably put on, you know, top to bottom. It's not put on forward horizontal. It's not put on, it's put on vertically, not horizontal. So I'm hoping that I'm not going to get any more leaks from this. But yeah, it's real important that you buy the actual Outlaw gasket and not the KTM gasket for a dirt bike. And if you go to put this on, you have to make sure everything is clean, and there's a lot of oil that'll end up coming out of the motor. Even if you drain the oil, I let this set for 2 days and there was still oil in it, and I just got done spraying it and cleaning it off. I'm making sure that there's no oil before I put this gasket on, and I'm going to go ahead and put gasket sealant on it as well, because I don't want to have to do this again, and I need to make sure that this thing ain't gonna leak. So all this needs to be cleaned up, and the stator cover needs to be cleaned up as well, because when you go to put this stator on with the magnets, it's gonna want to suck that cover right on. Now if this motor was being assembled on an actual engine stand and it was where you could put it on and move the stand and put it on horizontally, it wouldn't be a big issue. But we're going and trying to put the cover on vertically. So what's going to happen is, now that I've got all this other stuff on here, this cover isn't going to want to fit basically around this foot peg. So it's very vitally important that you be very careful, or you'll rip that gasket on these 2 mounting pins on the top and the bottom. So I've got everything cleaned up, ready to go, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a very thin coat of sealant on the gasket and apply a small amount of this gasket sealant to this gasket, and then I will go back to the motor and put it on the motor side, specifically on the pin side by the shift lever. You don't need a lot of this stuff. This stuff really stinks too, and it's very, very, very tacky. But we want to work pretty quick on this. Then we'll go to the motor. It's a lot easier to do this if it was on an engine stand. Get this out of the way. Now with our gasket, with the gasket sealed on, we'll go ahead and put the gasket onto the motor. And let it tack up for a few minutes before I put the other cover on. Now I'll go ahead and cover this side as well. Hopefully this time we'll get a good seal so I don't have to deal with any more leaks. Okay, like I said, the magnet is really going to want to pull this thing in. And what you want to do is, while you're holding the cover out, go ahead and try to get the hole lined up, the pin lined up here on the top, and then push the bottom in. And we're just going to wait a couple minutes before I put the bolts in. Okay, this is actually set now, so what we'll do is we'll start reinstalling our 4 bolts here. So we're just going to get it snug, and I'm going to work from the bottom up this time. So we're going to wait until we hit the cover here. Okay, we hit the cover. Now we're going to go over to this one. And we've hit the cover. Actually, we'll do this one now. And then we'll just kind of try to get this torqued up. Okay, so now we're just going to go a little tighten at a time. Then I'm going to come back and give it a little more hammer here. And now I'm going to come back and tighten these up. And I'm really hoping that this is it. That I don't have to do this again. Alright, on to the next thing. I did find, I apparently bought an oil cooler that'll take one of the oil filters out and run an oil cooler under the radiator. I'm going to look at getting that set up for when I pull the radiator out and put my TorrentPerformance radiator in. But other than that, I'm finding more stuff. And then I found a oversized water pump impeller for up top of here. So when I go to pull the radiator out and I go to reinstall my radiator kits, there's an oversized radiator impeller, and then I have my lines, and then just a bunch of other stuff. I just keep finding stuff. So keep watching. If you need help with any of this stuff, go to the playlist below. I'm out of here.